What would it take to make one of the richest people in America go broke? Jeff Bezos built one of the largest fortunes in modern history. But even a fortune worth hundreds of billions of dollars is not completely untouchable. Because being extremely wealthy doesn't mean having hundreds of billions of dollars sitting in a bank account. Most of that wealth is tied to investments, company ownership, and other assets. So, in theory, a series of extraordinary events could put enormous pressure on Bezos' fortune. Here are the scenarios that could potentially push a billionaire toward financial collapse. The first and most obvious risk is a dramatic decline in the value of major assets. A large portion of Bezos' wealth has historically been connected to his ownership and investments in major companies and financial assets. Imagine a severe market downturn. Technology stocks fall, investors lose confidence, company valuations plunge. If the value of major holdings dropped by 70 or 80%, Bezos' net worth could fall by tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars on paper. That wouldn't automatically make him bankrupt, but it would dramatically reduce the financial cushion supporting his wealth. Even billionaires can use borrowed money. Loans can sometimes be backed by valuable investments that can provide liquidity without requiring the owner to sell large amounts of stock. But there's a catch. If the value of those assets falls sharply, lenders can demand additional collateral or repayment. Suddenly, someone who appears incredibly wealthy on paper could face a serious liquidity problem. The issue isn't necessarily how much someone owns. It's how much cash they can access when their assets are losing value. Now imagine something much bigger. What if one of Bezos' major investments suffered an extraordinary collapse? A company could face years of declining revenue, massive competition, regulatory pressure, or a technological disruption that changes an entire industry. If Bezos continued investing heavily to support the business, billions of dollars could potentially disappear. One failed investment probably wouldn't destroy his fortune, but several major failures happening at the same time could create a completely different situation. That's the danger of concentration. When enormous amounts of wealth are connected to a limited number of assets, a major downturn can have an outsized impact. But here's where things become truly extreme. For Bezos to actually approach bankruptcy, it would probably require several disasters to happen together. Imagine a severe global financial crisis. Markets collapse. Major investments lose most of their value. Some businesses connected to his wealth suffer enormous losses. At the same time, debt obligations remain. Legal and business expenses increase. And selling assets becomes difficult because their values are falling rapidly. That's what economists might call a liquidity crisis. Someone can own billions in assets and still have difficulty meeting immediate financial obligations. It's the difference between being wealthy on paper and having accessible cash. But there's an important distinction. A massive drop in net worth is not the same thing as bankruptcy. If Bezos' fortune fell from, for example, $200 billion to $50 billion, that would be an extraordinary financial loss. But he would still be extraordinarily wealthy. To truly become bankrupt, the situation would have to go much further. His liabilities would need to become greater than the value of the assets he could realistically use to satisfy those obligations. And that's a much higher threshold. In theory, yes. Any fortune can be damaged by extreme market conditions, business failures, excessive financial obligations, or a combination of unexpected events. But in reality, completely wiping out a fortune of this size would require an extraordinary chain of failures. That's what makes the story fascinating. The question isn't simply, can a billionaire lose money? Of course they can. The real question is, how many things would have to go wrong before one of the world's largest fortunes could actually disappear? And for someone like Jeff Bezos, the answer is a lot.